Hey guys, I'm Tim.
And I'm Bob.
And this is the Board Game Rundown. And today we are going to talk about High Treason, the trial of Louis Riel. This is the man they say is responsible for the Manitoba Act in Canada. I don't know a ton about Canadian history because I am an ignorant American.
When we learn American history, it's really just USA history.
Yeah,
not really
then
American.
It's more glossy, you know, version. But anyways, in the rule book, though, they do have a very cool section right here, which does give you like the historic background. And on all of the cards, you've got these characters that are represented in a sort of like events, and you get a lot of
little biography about
context in the flavor text there, so which is pretty cool. So in this game, and this is a two-player game, we are basically somebody's playing as the prosecution and somebody's playing as the defense, and the game is going to be played over 5 rounds. And in these rounds, we're doing various things. We've got these cards that are multi-purpose cards. So during jury selection, there will actually be 12 jurors out, and they're going to have all these hidden traits on them, like what they do, what language they speak, and what religion, right? So they might be Catholic or Protestant. They speak either English or French, and then maybe they're a government worker, a merchant, or a farmer. And these are different things that we are going you're going to be influencing with these jurors and trying to gain sway with them throughout all of these rounds. So during jury selection, you're basically discarding cards to reveal or peek at these trait markers. So if I peek at one, there's a little arrow kind of icon that tells you which way it's pointing. So if I peek at one, I look at it and then I point the arrow towards me. So then I know that I've peeked at it. And then also Bob would know that I peeked at it. If we both peek at the same one, it gets revealed. But we're going to go through so you have 7 cards in your hand. You're going to play 5 of your cards. You're going to save 2 for the plea at the end. So then after we have finished, we've done our 5 cards and we've revealed whatever we're going to reveal at and peek what we're going to peek with the jurors. Then we're going to take turns eliminating a juror until we're down to 6. So that's jury selection phase. The first game, it's kind of like, I don't know, let's just see.
Yeah.
Like I very specifically tried to clear out some ones that we knew everything about, where Bob was trying to clear out ones that he didn't know.
About.
So it's kind of a fun...
Right, because I want to know who I'm trying to sway which way.
Right, so it's kind of a fun contrast. And it made for some really interesting stuff later in the game. And then in the next round, I'll just grab one of these cards real quick. Then we get into the trial in chief events. And so now you're going to play cards from your hand.
You'll be dealt 7 more.
Yeah, you're going to get 7 more cards, and you're going to play 5 of them. And you're going to save 2 more for that plea. And you're basically going to do this round twice. Second and third round, you're going to do this twice. And so now you're going to be using your cards as either action points, or you're going to be using it for the event listed on the card. It could be raising the evidence of guilt. It could be raising or lowering the insanity track over here. The other thing you can do is sort of sway the jury, right? Like, so the farmers, maybe like the lower the number, the better for the defense. And then the higher the number, which if you notice, if you're... I don't know if Bob can tell because he's colorblind, but like these are blue and these are red. So it kind of gives you...
Now that you point out, I do notice a difference.
You see the gradation, right? But, and so the defense is trying to make these numbers lower, and we'll explain why as we go. And then you also have you're swaying and locking in these jurors down here. And when you do that, you can't put any more tokens on them. And then if the majority of either prosecution or defense on a locked juror also greatly affects the points at the end of the game. So you'll do that for 2 rounds. You're playing it and you're using the card either for the action points listed on the card or the trial in chief events. And then round 4, you're going to use the cards that you discarded, or not, I shouldn't say discarded, the 2 you saved that you set aside. And so you're going to have 6 cards. So the prosecution is going to play 3 of their cards
for the bottom action.
For the very bottom action. And then the defense is going to play all 6 of their cards for the bottom action. Then the prosecution is going to play their 3 cards that are left. And then we get into basically the verdict.
The tally,
And with evidence of guilt, if the prosecution has not been able to advance this even one, because sometimes it can get moved back. Actually, I did move
You
it
did
back.
move it back once, yeah. Didn't expect that. I was like, it's evidence.
Yeah.
How do you get rid of
Yeah, it
evidence?
was like the Spanish Inquisition. Nobody expected it.
That's right.
But anyways, if they've met at least the minimum, we can proceed. Otherwise, they're going to affect the track, right? And then so the same thing with the insanity. And I'd actually gotten it up pretty far.
You did.
If I'd got it one more, it might have won me the game.
Might have.
And then we're going to tally up all the points. And so you're going to take each juror and all of their traits, and you're going to add up all of the values. If that juror is locked in for the prosecution, you then double that. If it is locked in for the defense, you cut that total in half. And you go through all of that. You get also for each sway token for the defense, that's a -1 to their points. And then you get a point for each trait that you have sway in. And and you total it up. If the prosecution has 100 or more points, which sounds like a lot, but they do tally up quick.
Yeah.
If they have 100 or more points, they win. If it's 99 or lower, the defense wins. And what was it, like 112?
112. So, yeah.
And
I
it
thought
was,
I had it smoked. I was like, oh my gosh, I barely made it.
Yeah. Because I don't think you would realize you needed 100 points.
Right.
And the other thing was like, I thought I was smoked, but then I was watching and I had some really good jurors that was like only like 7 points. I'm like, oh, it's going to get close. It's going to get close. And then he just crested over at the end, literally with the last juror.
Yeah.
Which was kind of exciting to see that come down to the last
vote.
Last vote.
He walked up and he was like, guilty.
So that's basically like a really brief how to play. The rule book's pretty good. Has everything in there.
Those cards are really nice.
One thing that I think is freaking excellent that this game does, and I've never seen it done before in a game, is it just has these round cards right here. And round one, you've got one that just gives you a detailed version of what you're doing, and like the round breakdown. And so we spent the majority of the game, I had read the rule book a couple times, but we spent the majority of the game just going off of these. We consulted the rule book maybe 2 or 3 times just to understand what an icon meant, or does this trigger multiple things?
Right.
Because if he locks in a juror, we left that out. You get to spend the deliberation points of the jurors that are locked for you.
Which gives you more actions.
Which gives you more actions to do things.
But that does chain event too. So like as I started to, at the end, use some deliberation points, I could add them to the other jurors. And once they got locked in for me, I was able to add more stuff. And so that is what won me the game.
Well, and so thematically, that feels like, it feels thematic.
Yeah.
Like how you can sway a jury, right? And get them going.
Yep.
So that's basically how you play the game. Let's get into our thoughts about it.
Yeah.
So what'd you think, Bob?
I like this. I like a lot of 2-player games. Like we've played Waterdeep a few times, and I kind of had that sort of a feel.
Watergate.
What's it? Waterdeep.
You did.
Yeah. Watergate. And this kind of had that sort of a feel to it. Not quite the spatial element to it, but you're trying to sway. You're basically appealing to the different people based on their religion or what language they speak or what kind of job they have, and then depending on where that level is at, then they're going to hold more sway in your final tally, trying to convince, whether they're guilty or not. And the cards are super unique. Like there's so many different cards, a lot of different abilities to use.
Yes.
And the multi-purpose. So after you do the initial jury selection, all those discarded cards get shuffled back in, so you'll get to see some of them again. And then some of them also have little actions where if you weren't super happy with one of the cards you had, you're able to swap a card out with one of your other cards and save that card for later for the bottom of it. And that's super helpful and interesting too, to see how that would play out over more playthroughs. But no, I thought it was super interesting. I really like the 2 cards there that basically give you this is what's going to happen in the round. This is the basic overview of who's taking what actions when, and then it gives you the details of okay, you're going to play a card. These are the actions you can do these actions, and these are the actions you can take, and it's all listed right there, which is super helpful. This whole thing, having to know, so I wanted to make sure I knew what occupation traits were out, because that's what I was going to try to push. I was like, okay, there's a lot of farmers that we see, so I'm going to make sure I'm going to push all the farmers and lock those in.
You had pushed a lot of the farmers, pretty high.
Yeah.
And I had I didn't want to abandon that trait, but I was trying to just make everything else super low.
Right.
So he was really only getting a couple points from here. I had the languages one buried.
Right.
It was...
Didn't matter what language you spoke, it was irrelevant.
Yeah. And then, and so yeah, it makes for really interesting strategy as you go.
Give and take. And then one of the nice things too is like, so whereas with the in the what do they call it, the summation of events at the end, some of these events might not be good. So if the defense, for instance, had this merchant card where it says you have to increase the merchant aspect 3, he's not going to want to do that. So you don't technically have to. You can always just discard the card to get actions and just place tokens out.
Right.
And that way you're not stuck doing actions you don't want to do. And that's super interesting. And then I also like the same thing. I almost said Waterdeep again. Like Watergate had, where it has like the historical notion to it, where it tells you a little bit about each person, and like the pictures are kind of based on those people. And we're assuming. I mean, I guess we didn't actually do the research because we're professionals. This picture of here, these are probably the 6 jurors. It looks like a list 6 people from that point in time. So I'm going to assume that that's something historically accurate that they added, because that would be a really interesting touch if that's what they did. But no, I really enjoy this. Like I said, I love the give and take that 2-player games can have. Like, sure, group games are fun, and I have a good time doing those. But sitting down against somebody and just trying to strategically play against somebody and like outwit somebody and try to I really enjoy that kind of stuff.
Well, and like literally, we kind of figured it out like after talking, after the game had finished. There was one card that Bob played that won him the game, and if he wouldn't have played it, I don't think he would have won.
Yeah.
And it was because, and there's not a ton of them.
The objection.
But you'll have a card like that's the attorney for your side, and if you can play them as an objection, which basically cancels out your opponent's action card, and it's super powerful. There's not a ton of them.
Right.
And again, like, you don't always, like, sometimes I might have the as the defense, I might have the prosecution's attorney card, so I can't play it for the objection.
Right.
So there's also that aspect to it too, right?
Yeah, a little bit of luck involved. But I did, like, so I had the 6 cards and I had that objection. I'm like, I'm saving that one to the end because it has a powerful other ability. But if he was going to do something shenanigan-wise, I wanted to make sure I could, I wanted to make sure I could object to that.
Well, it was funny because it was like, I had 2 things and I was like, as long as he doesn't object to both of them, I've got a chance.
Right.
And one of them was advancing this track again, because then it shifted
Pushed
all the
everything
aspects down, right? Which was, again,
super helpful.
Yeah, let me just...
It made it that close.
Let me just make it a little bit closer if I can, right? Because, I mean, that literally subtracts 2, 4, 6
from each person.
Yeah.
So it could be 12 if it's doubled.
I mean, right. It just takes away a ton of points, potentially. And so... Very cool. Very cool interplay. I love games with multi-use cards.
Yep.
And the way, like, I mean, I think I will just say a lesser game would have had like 3 different decks for each thing.
Right.
It's so much cooler to see this and have that aspect, that thinky aspect of like planning ahead. But it's not.
Do I use it for this action or do I save it for that action?
Yeah, and it's not over complicated though either, where it's like you're just going to get paralyzed with AP. Like, I really don't. Like, I used to give Bob a hard time. He's a lot better now than he used to be, but I used to give him a hard time about, like, long turns. But even this game, and there was a lot of, like, really critical decisions you needed to make at the end of the game. But even then, I feel like the decisions were very interesting, and none of them were like, oh, somebody's going to take 5 minutes literally just to...
hem and haw what they want to do.
Yeah, to strategize the perfect turn. I mean, I think, everybody, I mean...
There's not a lot of min-maxing you can really do.
Yeah, there's only a little bit, right? And then, again, because the way we had done, and it could play out differently with different players or even in just different plays, with so much, there was still a bunch of hidden knowledge.
Hidden information,
And, hidden information where it's like, well, I'm just going to hope that one's not going to mess me up too much. Yeah. Because there was enough other things that, again, there were enough farmers showing. Right. You knew to push that up.
Push that farmers,
And they do have a percentage of...
Which is awesome meta, too, right? Yeah, they say, okay, so half of them are farmers, there's 33% merchants, and there's 17% government workers. So you can kind of know, like, even if you don't see what they all are, the odds are they're farmers.
What was weird, though, is, like, we had a lot of French speakers.
We did, even though it's only 28%.
Yeah, and I was driving it down, right? And the same thing with the Catholics. We had a fair amount of Catholics, so it was like... push them down, like, okay, they're on my side.
Yeah.
And so each time you play this, though, either you're playing with the same person or different people, and depending on your role, I feel like you're going to get a completely different experience.
Yeah.
Because there's enough variability in this game I mean, it gives you all the information to work out the puzzle, but I don't feel like it's a solvable puzzle because it changes every time.
Right.
Right.
And the cards you get aren't going to be the same each time.
Right.
Yeah.
But, but all of the cards felt really useful, because again, like the ones I really couldn't use, I mean, I'm getting action points and I'm doing.
Right. Yeah.
Doing things
Or
with
the
that.
other action is useful, so you save it for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I had one that was a objection card, I think, in the middle for you, and I was like, well, I don't want to save that, but the third ability was really good. Save that for later.
Yeah. And it's really cool because they're gonna have, they've got like a shading on there for either red, green, or blue. So red is for the prosecution, green is neutral, great for either side, and then blue is for the defense.
In all honesty, I couldn't tell the difference, but reading the card explains the card, right? So you just read it and it says, okay, well, obviously that's not good for me, so I'm gonna not play that.
right. So yeah, for that aspect of the colorblind, issue. It would potentially be there, but the iconography is pretty good.
Was good enough. Yeah, there's one thing with like the lightning bolts that says like, okay, so if it's red, only the prosecution can use it, but if it's green, either side could use it. But then also that card is, if you read it, it's useful for each side because it's a peek at something, and then it's green. Okay, so that means it's either side. It's useful for either side.
Right.
And then when it was red, it was like, oh, this is really strong for my side. Oh, because I'm the prosecution, that must be a red one.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's pretty straightforward.
You can deduce pretty easily, I think. Which
even if you can't tell the colors apart, so that's good.
But the iconography is really good.
This red and blue is important, but they're easy to distinguish which side is which.
Yeah. Yeah, I kept trying to get him to put blue side up.
He did. And one time it worked because there was a huge glare. I was like, really? And then he started laughing. So then I figured I was like, oh, haha. And then I flipped it over. But that was more because of the glare. Almost
worked. Yeah. But yeah, I had a really good time with this. I thought this was really cool. I love like little slice of history games. I love learning about aspects of history that I had no clue about.
Yeah.
And this being one of them, right? We just think of Canada as our friendly neighbors to the north. And you don't think about like, oh, they had civil
history
wars
too.
and uprisings.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, history. Weird. But yeah. Really cool, really thematic, and really fun. Bob and I were even getting into like, well, the prosecution attorney says this, you can do as much of that as you want or as little as you want.
Ham it up a little.
But we tend to get a little into it. But all right, Bobby, we should give this a rating.
All right.
Bob.
Yeah.
How does our rating system work?
That's a great question, Tim. So we're going to go ahead and rate this on a scale of 1 to 10. We do use 0.5, so there's a little bit of variation there. Then we're going to take our scores, we're going to average them together, and that'll be the score that you see on BGG and Discord, things like that.
Sweet. I like it.
Yeah.
So what do you rate High Treason? The trial of Louis Riel.
I do enjoy this game. I'm gonna say 7.5. I don't feel like I need to rush out and get it. If I have it in my collection, awesome. It is a game I would like to reach and grab and play it.
Right.
So I think 7.5 is that sweet spot where that falls. I really enjoyed it. I look forward to playing again. I want to take it down to play against Patrick. Your brother-in-law,
play against
the
the lawyer, right?
See how that goes. I think that'd be fun. I think I'm gonna fall on a 7.5.
Yeah, I think this is an 8 for me. Like I love history, and I love while Bob was taking turns. I mean, maybe it took a long time. I couldn't tell because I was so entertained by reading all the flavor text on my cards, and some of them have photographs of the people, and then most of them are just illustrations. But I mean, I just really felt like you're on the sidelines for this trial, right? And you're watching it, unfold. And it's really interesting to see the sway, and everything. And I appreciated the little bit of history in the rule book and everything. And it was easy enough to learn and teach.
Yeah.
Played in under an hour. I mean, with teach.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. And it's kind of a unique game. Like, I haven't played a ton like this. And so I thought this was really cool. So
if you take our scores and you average them together, 7.8.
Yeah, that's not bad.
It's not bad at all.
Not bad at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a really solid outing from Victory Point Games. Really like this game, both of us. Quite a bit.
Yeah.
And look forward to playing it some more.
Indeed.
If you found this video useful, please consider liking, subscribing, commenting below. Let us know what some of your favorite things in history are. What's a famous trial from history? You could do a bunch of games,
of these. Just based on that.
With some interesting mechanics maybe thrown in to make it a little different. But this was really neat. Really appreciate it. So yeah, let us know what you think. Also, we do have a Patreon if you'd like to support the show in a monetary fashion. If not, even just being on our Discord and hanging out with us there and commenting on the video is awesome for us.
Throw it a thumbs up.
We appreciate it. So for the Board Game Rundown, I've been Tim.
Bob.
I was innocent. Well, he was innocent.
And you can say the title's only 3 words.